Hey guys, in today's video, we're going to be going over 5 mistakes that you might be making when riding a motorized bike in the winter. Let's roll the bike in the shop. So our first mistake is not having some kind of fuel stabilizer. So what I personally like to run on my bikes is some gas line antifreeze. I'll show you guys the proper measurement for how much to put in the tank. And I also like to run seafoam through the bike. So what you would do is take off your gas cap and you're going to measure out in a mixing cup 20 to 25 milliliters of gasline antifreeze for a 1.5 liter tank. You're going to pour that in, and then you're going to mix it with your premix, and then you're going to spray the seafoam spray throughout the carb. And like I said, there's a whole process for that, which I would show you. However, I don't have any at the moment. And those two things right there are really going to help your bike perform better in the winter months when you go ahead and start it up every once in a while. What do I personally recommend? I would say every month, if you're not riding the bike at all, and I mean at all, let's say, it's just a side hobby for you and you're not planning on using it a whole lot, I would say 2 to 3 times per month is really going to make sure that everything stays moving and doesn't get too seized up. I want to talk about one common myth with this whole gas debacle, and that is draining your float bowl. The problem with draining your float bowl, you can see we have a few different styles. This one takes a Phillips head screwdriver, and this one you can simply just push on your thumb with, and it's going to drain the gas. This is good if you're cleaning the carb. I recommend draining the float bowl before taking the carburetor apart. But when being in the winter months, I do not recommend actually draining your gas, because here's what's going to happen. We have to remember that our carburetor is an open circuit, so that means this air filter right here is still, this is not a sealed unit. So what will happen, I've had this experience in the past, I'll see if I can find the picture of it. Unfortunately, my float bowl quite literally filled up with ice and condensation and caused the bike to simply not run because the main jet can't pull any fuel because it's full of ice. So this bike in particular is very hard to start during the winter, and there's a few reasons for this. First of all, the ignition timing on this motor, because it's a Minarelli, is set so far back that when you don't have very much wheel speed to turn over the motor, it can be very difficult to start. Another thing to look out for is your carb tune. So when the air starts to thin out during the colder months, you're going to experience your bike starting a lot more difficult than it did in the summer. So once you finally do get the bike going, you're going to be very tempted to stay in the revs to keep the engine alive. This is a big no-no, however, because the piston inside this iron cylinder is going to expand a lot faster, and it's going to cause some serious score damage if done all the time. A tool that I love using when warming my bikes up in the winter is actually a cheap little temperature gun. So what this is going to do, you're going to place it on the cylinder head once the bike is fully warm. You're going to determine what your operating temperature is. Then when you go to do a cold start on it, you'll let it reach very close to that temperature before you even touch the throttle. Because like I said earlier, this aluminum piston is going to expand a lot faster than an iron or even a chrome cylinder. Another mistake that's not widely known, but I like to bring up a lot, is when you actually shut the bike off. So when shutting your motorized bike off, like anybody would, you just tap your kill switch and you're done, right? What I personally like to do is flip the choke up all the way. Then I'm going to give the bike some gas, and while doing so, I'm going to shut the engine off. This is going to ensure that the whole cylinder is coated with 2-stroke oil, which is going to prevent rust buildup. Mistake number 4 is going to be not taking care of your drive chain. So this goes for anybody that's going to be riding their bike throughout the winter. What can happen is a lot of salt buildup and snow is going to actually move onto the chain itself and cause some visible rust. If this is not taken care of, it can cause excess friction and drag onto the engine, which is obviously bad, and it's going to wear out your sprockets a lot faster. One more thing to note is these sprocket bolts in here will actually start to loosen up. If it's a new build, these rubber pieces are going to compress really bad during the winter because the rubber's going to shrink, and you'll have to really make sure these are tight. So what do I use on my bikes? To answer your question, I just simply use gear lube. It works well for all seasons, and I've had no problems with it. WD-40 in of itself is not a chain lube. Do not use this unless it's, a bike-specific one. The lithium-based ones are also a good option. These brush-on ones I've used in the past and I've had good luck. Basically, anything that's intended for a motorcycle, it's going to work just fine. The last mistake I want to discuss is not running the correct tire pressure for the winter and not having the correct tires for the type of terrain you're going to be riding on. So in my experience, these more nubby style tires have held up better in the snow and I find these street style kind of print tires are terrible in the snow, and unless you want to, you know, have your face on the pavement, I prefer a more aggressive print. What you could do is have these tires for the summer and then carry a nice pair of 1.95 knobbies for this case, and you should be good to go. But and I'm gonna run it at lower pressure. So in the summer, I would have these puppies at like 40 to 42 psi. In the winter, we're talking more like 32 to 35 with these. Investing in a little tire gauge like this is not going to be a bad idea. As you can see, you just stick it onto the valve stem. You get your pressure reading. And as you can see, we're at about 22, 23 psi. And it's got a little bleeder. So if you had it on there, you could just press this button and it will take it out for you. So pretty cool. That's pretty much going to do it for today's video. I hope you guys like what you saw. If I helped you in some way, make sure to let me know down in the comments. I'm going to go edit this video because I'm freezing my fingers off. I'll see you guys in the next video.